Hey all, Bree from the No Guilt Mom podcast, and I have got a gift for you this holiday season. If you love the No Guilt Mom podcast, and I mean love the No Guilt Mom podcast, then tell us about it. Leave us a review, and you can be entered to win a No Guilt Mom gift card. All you have to do is leave a review, take a screenshot, and then simply go to noguiltmom.com/review to enter our giveaway for a free No Guilt Mom gift card, simply for telling us what you think about the podcast. It is amazing. But don't delay. Get right on this, as we're going to be giving away that No Guilt Mom gift card on December 21st. So get right on over and visit noguiltmom.com/review.
Welcome to the No Guilt Mom podcast. I am your host, Joanne Crone, joined here by my co-host, Bree Tucker.
Well, hello, everybody. How are you?
Bree and I are freezing today in the 65-degree weather here in Arizona.
They promised me it would be upper 70s.
It's so funny because I was teasing her this morning. I'm like, Bree, you came in the office yesterday complaining about how it was going to be hot. And then today it's like, it's cold. Why isn't it hot?
I know. I'm just never happy. I am just, I need to move back to the Midwest, where if you don't like the weather, just wait, it'll change in 5 minutes. Out here, it's like pretty much either hot or cold. Hot or cold.
Meanwhile, all the Midwesterners are like ready to slap us through their, wherever they're listening. They're like 65. Really, ladies.
Really complaining about that. You people should see me. I have a sweater on and a sweater over the sweater, and I have my socks and my long pants. Like, this is like as heavy as it gets. But on the flip side, though, like recently we were supposed to go up to a cabin in northern Arizona for a weekend, and I was just worried that it would be way too cold. I don't have a winter coat.
Oh, yeah.
Everything other than jackets.
The winter coat. I had to go to REI to find a winter coat because that's the only place you can find winter clothing in Arizona.
Yeah, sounds about right.
The camping
our
store.
Targets, Walmarts, we do not sell coats here.
No.
And if we do, it's for like a hot second, like 2 weeks.
I remember going into a Walmart in Minnesota and I'm like, what is this? It's like a whole section like I've never seen before because it's like, it's all winter wear. I'm like, this is weird.
Oh my gosh, I believe that. I so believe that.
It's funny. So today we have, she's part of the Two Timers Club, which we need to rename, but I kind of also don't want to rename because
I know, right? It's got
fun.
A thing now. It's a thing now, the Two Timers Club. We need to get them like a jacket.
Two Timers Club.
They need a jacket. Club.
No. But Dr. Lisa Bravo, she's written a new book called The Bravo Effect. And oh my gosh, Bree and I both read it.
Hands down, love it. I'm going to be buying it and sending it to some of my friends.
It is compulsively readable because it's like one of those books like you just start reading, you're like, yes. Yes, and
it feels like she's talking to you. And I love her straight talk. Like right from the get-go, she's like, if you have a challenging teen, this is going to be hard.
Yeah.
If you think that this is going to be easy, put down this book. It's not for you.
Yeah.
And I love it because that's the truth. It is hard.
And just a heads up, there is a little bit of language in this episode. So if you're listening, just listen with those headphones around your kiddos. But Lisa Bravo, she is AKA the Teen Whisperer. She's a highly acclaimed psychotherapist, speaker, author, and teacher. She holds a doctoral degree in behavioral health from Arizona State University. Woo! Go Devils! And maintains a thriving practice in Scottsdale, Arizona as an expert in family dynamics and adolescent behavior. And when she's not providing counseling to families, Dr. Bravo spends her time training the next generation of counselors, most recently through the graduate counseling program at Arizona State. Whoop, whoop. I got both of my degrees, my bachelor's and my master's, so Arizona State. She's a regular consultant to various media and news outlets, academic institutions, and behavioral health organizations across the country. And we hope you enjoy our conversation with Dr. Lisa Bravo. So let's talk dinner time for a little bit because, Bree, out of everything, like dinner stresses me out because I'm hangry, first of all, and then my kids never want to eat anything that I suggest.
Sounds like my house.
Yeah. So something that helped us out with this is eat at home meal plans, where it's so easy. You get a new meal plan every single week. You actually get 4 new meal plans that you can choose from every single week. As a grocery list, all of the recipes are super simple. Kids love them. My kids love them. Like they request the chicken curry like all the time. And with the grocery list, since my husband doesn't grocery shopping in our house, I just gave him the grocery list and he gets all the stuff for the week. So if you want to get rid of that dinner stress, and if you hate meal planning as much as I do, you need to get eat at home meal plans. And you can sign up at noguiltmom.com/eat-at home. And you can also get 25% off when you use the discount code No Guilt Mom, all one word. And let's get on with the show.
You want mom life to be easier. That's our goal too. Our mission is to raise more self-sufficient and independent kids, and we're going to have fun doing it. We're going to help you delegate and step back. Each episode will tackle strategies for positive discipline, making our kids more responsible and making our lives better in the process. Welcome to the No Guilt Mom Podcast.
Welcome back to the podcast. Lisa, you're part of our, so we have to redo this name, but we call it the Two Timers Club. Yes, obviously why it needs to be redone. But
I'm not a podcast virgin. Is that what we're saying?
Yes. You are part of our, we called it
the Second Timers Club.
Yes.
Welcome. So for those of our audience who don't know you, can you tell them a little bit about you and what you do?
Sure. I am a doctor of behavioral health, and I've been working in the Phoenix area in private practice for 2 decades. Make me sound old, but it's true. I've also been a teacher and trainer for many years of other therapists. And I am really a solution-focused therapist at heart and a family systems therapist. So a lot of my work has to do with working with families, but I also specialize in working with teenagers. My background is in substance dependency and counseling, and also I'm a licensed professional counselor.
And you are coming out with a new book called The Bravo Effect, which both Bree and I have read. And we were saying before this podcast interview, we're going to get very, very passionate about it because we loved it so much. Can you tell us a little bit about the book and why you decided to write it?
Sure. I've been doing counseling in my office in this, kind of in private practice. It's a very isolated sort of thing. You're not with a bunch of other therapists. And I've seen many families over the years, primarily with teenagers that they're struggling with. And I've developed sort of this framework for parents that I think is really simple in terms of what it looks like, but it's also really sort of challenging to implement when things are in crisis. Most of the families that I meet with are in crisis when they come to see me. I'm sort of the last resort. They've already been through 7 therapists or, they've been down the road already. So when I get them, they're in crisis, which in my opinion is the best place they can be, because crisis is such a fertile ground for change to happen because parents are motivated, teens are motivated. And I love that dynamic. There's so much juicy dynamic to work with families when they're in the throes of it. But what I also found is I can only see one family at a time. And I really wanted my reach to be wider. I wanted families to be able to get this information and parents to get this information in the midst of everything that is going on for them. I also, as you know, there's a lot of talk about the stigma around therapy. Many parents, when things aren't going well, are very resistant to talking to a therapist because somehow that equals failure or somehow that equals the principal's office for them. And what I want to do is kind of remove that resistance and give them the information so that they can get back on track as quickly as possible.
I think that is just so wonderful. You are 100% right. I have, in my family, we've dealt with depression and anxiety, and we've had our struggles, both I've seen it with my sisters growing up when we were teens, and then, experiencing some of it myself as a parent of a teen right now. It's really hard to get over that hump. And sometimes it's even the kids, right? Trying to get over that hump of going in and talking to somebody. And the book it's very practical. It's easy to read. And it speaks to you as a parent of a teen. It really, really does.
It does. And building more on that whole therapy stigma. I mean, I was raised in a family where it's you don't go to therapy, you talk to your family members. And you're I can't talk to my family members when it's the problems I'm having is about the family dynamic.
Right.
So I love that you wrote a book about it.
Well, and I think that parents also, or that kids want to be understood And I often tell parents that this is really, my job. And I tell teens this, my job is to sort of be the conduit between you and your parents, because for some reason you're not understanding or hearing each other because there's so much emotion flying around. So I kind of try to calm that down and really help teens understand, like, first they have to take responsibility for all the, sparks that are flying, but also let's make sure that they really hear what you're saying, because what you have to say is so important, and getting them to that place where they can actually hear what the other person is saying.
Definitely. And you mentioned something about teens being in crisis. Like, can you give us some examples of teens like that you've seen in crisis? This message is sponsored by Greenlight. It is so hard to raise kids who know how to manage money. Bree, right now, my kids are all about earning money for presents. My daughter wants to get presents for all of her friends, and my son is doing a Secret Santa with his friends.
Oh, I hear you. And if you're looking to raise kids that are financially responsible, we have got a lifesaver recommendation for you that you need to check out. It is Greenlight. Greenlight is a debit card and money app made for families that gives kids and teens an easy and fun way to gain financial literacy, all while giving parents peace of mind.
You can send instant money transfers, automate allowance, and even keep an eye on kids' spending with real-time notifications. Meanwhile, your kids can begin their journey towards financial autonomy by learning how to save, invest, and spend wisely.
So sign up for Greenlight today and get your first month free when you go to greenlight.com/NGM.
That's greenlight.com/NGM to try Greenlight for free. Greenlight.com/NGM. We're hitting that time of year where my brain gets so overloaded in December that I look for anything to make life easier. And I have to say, Bree, that Green Chef is one of those services.
Yes, Green Chef is there to take away the dreaded, oh my goodness, what are we going to eat for dinner tonight? You can eat clean all holiday long with over 80 weekly meal options each week, featuring things like quick and easy, protein-packed, calorie-smart, or my personal favorite, the keto options.
And you don't have to lose track of healthy eating habits during the holidays, because every Green Chef customer gets a free session with one of their registered dietitians who can walk you through how to make clean eating work for you, which is very cool.
And I have to say that I have been loving their recipes lately. They put things together I have never thought of. This week, we're trying the lemon basil caper pork with sauteed cauliflower, bell peppers, almonds, and feta cheese, my favorite. Their recipes make it so easy to support my wellness goals without skipping on flavor.
For Green Chef's best deal of the year, get $250 off with code NGM250 at greenchef.com/NGM250. That's greenchef.com/NGM250. And don't forget to use that code NGM250 to get $250 off.
Green Chef, the #1 meal kit for eating well.
Well, I would define crisis or even extreme behavior as anything that's out of the norm for what's developmentally appropriate. So I think we read so much about, teenagers and how, moody and dreary they can be. And that's true because developmentally, they're going through a very important time in their lives. Their brains are growing. They're defining who they are as their own person, not as somebody's child anymore. They're gaining the autonomy and independence that's normal at this developmental stage. So all of those things are kind of what we call typical development. Outside of that realm of typical development, we have, risk-taking behaviors, such as self-harm or, drinking, experimenting with drugs and alcohol. Now, that can be considered normal in some fashion in later adolescence, but if it's to the point where it's causing harm to that child or it's causing harm to the family members, it's changing that teenager's sort of their mental well-being, then that's what's outside of the norm. And crisis can also be, families in crisis. It can be parents who are on the cusp of divorce and, having to go through all that turmoil. That can also often exacerbate rebellious behavior because teenagers are just trying to communicate. And I believe that all behavior is communication with teenagers. So they're not always going to say it with their words, what they need or want, because they don't always understand it cognitively. But they will definitely speak to us about their emotions through their behavior.
like all behavior is communication. I think that's so true. And I think it also gives parents a lot more empathy when dealing with a teenager to know that, they're not being disrespectful or they're not like meaning to do this. They're just trying to communicate their feelings and they don't know how.
And, something that you brought up in your book that's interesting is that especially when they're, and let me kind of back this up. Like in your book, you separate the different aspects of the teenage life. Like I forget the names you gave for each age group.
I just remember porcupine.
Like the porcupine stage. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's all these different stages and you see different development during those stages. And that a lot of times as parents, we reflect back and we're like, oh, I remember what it was like to be like that. So we overgeneralize and assume we know what our kids are going through. And I think that kind of resonates with what you just said a moment ago about how we really need to listen to what our kids are saying. Because I know that I love my kids dearly, but with my daughter right now, like sometimes she's 12 going on 16, I swear.
Right.
And we don't always have the best communication because she'll try to tell me something and I'll say to her, oh, I get it. I know what I know what it's like. And I don't even realize that I'm sometimes negating what she's trying to say because I automatically assume I understand. So
right.
That's a really great point for us to remember.
Well, and I also think just to piggyback onto that, Bree, I know you're teachers, right? Your background is teachers. And I think parents are teachers in a certain way. We are our children's first teachers. And during adolescence, there is this point where we have to give up our job as teachers and be collaborators. That's a really hard transition for parents, I found, more than it is for the kids. The kids don't want everything to be a lesson anymore. When you don't hang the moon for them anymore when they turn 12, right? So at that point, you have to really understand that they need your role with them to be a collaborator instead of a teacher. And that's a hard thing to do. It's a hard transition for parents to make.
Yeah. They don't need me all the time anymore.
See, I celebrate that. I am so excited for this not needing me. I'm like, I'm ready to go into this collaborator stage.
It's funny. We had this conversation.
We did.
So you just mentioned that about our background in education. Mine is an early childhood. So 0 to 5, I got that down.
Right.
And that's where, I am more of a teacher. I'm more needed. I'm happy
and they follow you around like baby ducks at that age. Right?
And I'm able to handle that no problem. But I got to tell you, and you've known me for so long, Joanne, you know that like as soon as my kids hit about 5th grade, I started struggling. And that's where you are shining.
Because I was a middle grade teacher in 5th grade. So I'm all about like the stepping back and assisting when needed and watching.
I know what I want them to do. I know where I want them to end being strong, resilient, capable individuals. I'm just struggling with getting to that path right now. And like you say in your book, like it's hard at this age. It really.
And it's uncharted water. You might know how to swim in a pool, but that doesn't mean you can swim in the ocean. So I think that's part of it is understanding that even though you know your child, you know how to parent, you're moving into this uncharted territory. And lots of times what we do is we default to how we were parented. So if you haven't really implemented any skill-based kind of parenting programs or done any kind of work in that area, I think we default to how we were parented. So if you come from any sort of dysfunction, you're going to tend to replicate that, whether you want to or not. That's just what we do. It's really easy to parent kids who are open and happy and engaged. It's a lot harder to parent kids who are disengaged and disenchanted and angry. That's when it gets we really test the waters of who we are.
Yeah.
Definitely. Something that you said in your book, which I found really interesting, is that parents can act with this undercurrent of fear that a teenager picks up on, and then that teenager starts getting defensive. Can you tell us a little bit, how does that play out?
Well, I think, fear is a huge piece because I think when parents are in a place of fear, what happens is we go into how are we going to control the situation because we're afraid. Anytime we're in fear, we're also in a space of needing to control. So we're needing to control the behavior. We're needing to control the attitude. We're needing to control. We're embarrassed because of how they just talked to us in front of grandma and grandpa. Whatever those things are, we are trying to control. And fear influences how we parent. So if we're in a place of fear, we tend to have a more sort of punitive framework. Either they freeze or they overshoot, right? So it tends to get out of balance. And so in that dynamic that happens when the parent's in a place of fear is because teenagers are really more invested in how they feel about you, about their relationship. They don't really spend a whole lot of time with the words. The words are secondary to how they feel. So you can be in the face, you can be calm, you can say what you need, but if you are seething inside, they will respond to the seething inside and not what you're saying.
That is so true.
Yeah.
That's so true.
Yeah, it's that energetic dynamic that they're focused on more than anything else. So I think if parents can get really clear about kind of where we are in that dynamic, what happens with kids also is when we're in a place of fear, let's say they've there's been some big event and they're in trouble and we're sitting down with them, we're trying to have the talk, right? What happens is we're trying to be calm, but we're really upset. We're really unraveling inside. We're really angry, whatever's going on for us emotionally. If we haven't dealt with that before we sit down with our teen, that is all going to be part in the mix of what happens. And that's the undercurrent that happens. I can't tell you how many times I've been in my office working through something with a family, and I'll have a teenager point blank, the parent will be trying to be calm and saying all the right things. And they'll say, "Oh, you don't mean that. You're so mad at me right now. I know you're so mad." And the parent's like, "No, I'm not. I'm not yelling. See, I'm not mad." But inside there, you can feel the energy and the tension. And so it's really important to know that that's sort of what happens when there's a lot of crisis and chaos in a family system with a teenager who's been really rebellious. And there's been a lot of things going on in that family. What happens sometimes is they almost get addicted to the rush of that tension. Even though they don't understand what's happening cognitively, it becomes like they feel the most connected. They feel like you're the most available to them when they are falling apart. And what happens is it creates this pattern for kids where they feel the most loved when they are the most discombobulated, when they're the most out of touch, when they're the most out of their behaviors, the most out of control. And so it creates this really strong and reinforced, because we're trying, right? Our child just came in at 3:00 in the morning and may have been drinking, and now we're out of our beds and we're waiting for him and we're going to talk to him and we are available, right? And what happens with teenagers who don't feel connected is they start to form the conclusion that that's when they get the most from us. And so that dynamic can be really dangerous, because if we are only available when they're falling apart in their minds, and this is really from their perspective, okay, because most parents will say, "Oh no, I talk to him, I tell him to have a good day, he doesn't," but it's not about the words we say, it's about how we connect with them energetically. That matters. And so if they feel the most connected emotionally to us and the most focused on in those moments, that's what they're going to go for emotionally. It's not a cognitive decision. Remember, their brains are still growing. So their brains, we can't rely on their brains at this point.
So my son is playing a game right now on his computer where he's a thief and the cops are after him. So I'm so excited about this new app, Give As We Grow, where instead of being the quote unquote bad guys, kids are practicing giving back.
That is so cool, Joanne. I really wish that there was something like this when my kids were younger that got them excited about giving back to others and helped them build a better understanding of what it really means to volunteer.
Give As We Grow is the first of its kind free educational mobile app for children ages 8 to 11 that teaches kids via fun, service-focused minigame quests to tap into their unique talents and interests to help others.
And did you know that studies show that there is a biological connection between generosity and happiness, and that volunteering improves people's physical and mental health? I mean, kids who volunteer typically do better in school and are less likely to engage in risky behaviors. And that is something that I think we all want for our kids.
Ready to spark a new movement in generosity? Find and download Give As We Grow for free in the App Store for Android and iOS. And for resources for the whole family, visit giveaswegrow.org.
Hey, all, Bree here, and I wanted to share one of my favorite gifts to give during the holiday season, a Storyworth book. It is the most amazing gift ever. Storyworth is an online service that lets you create a special and unique gift of someone's story. I've given Storyworth books to both of my parents, and it has been their favorite gift, hands down. And did I mention it is so easy? Storyworth emailed my parents questions every week that I handpicked from their massive list of questions that they have. All my parents had to do was open their email and answer them. That easy. I asked my dad questions like, did you have any rules that you set for yourself as a parent, which you immediately broke? And he did. I even asked both of my parents, are you more like your mom or your dad? And they shared a lot of really amazing qualities that I didn't know about my grandparents at the time. Then at the end of the year, Storyworth compiles all of their answers, puts them into this gorgeous book that covers everything. My parents love showing us their books, and I personally love getting a chance to read them. With Storyworth, I am giving those I love a thoughtful and personal gift from the heart that preserves their memories and stories for years to come. Go to storyworth.com/NGM and save $10 on your first purchase. That's storyworth.com/NGM to save $10 on your first purchase.
What I'm hearing is that parents, if they have this fear, they really need to deal with that fear before confronting their kids. But like, how as a parent do you deal with that fear?
Well, I think it's really helpful if you're in a partnership, right? So if you have somebody to bounce things off of with your spouse or your partner or in a co-parenting kind of situation. But if it's just you, I talk in the mirror a lot. I mean, part of it is I have to know where I am. If I am a hot mess and I try to manage my teenager who is out of control, that is the most terrifying feeling in the world. I was a rebellious teenager. I had a lot of experiences when I was young with misbehavior. And I will tell you, when I was out of control and I was afraid because I crossed all these lines and I'm not really sure what to do now, and I bit off more than I could chew and all of those things, and I looked to a parent for some sort of guidance and nurturing, and they're terrified too, and they're out of control, that is not a good scenario. So it's super important that we take time away, we get centered. Maybe you journal. I don't know if we're allowed to swear on this podcast, but I highly recommend that parents get a fuck it bucket, which I call a fuck it bucket, is a journal where you just empty your brain out and say everything you wanted to say that you really isn't going to be beneficial for your child to hear, and just unload it. And then clear your brain and reset yourselves, like rebooting your computer, and go out there and try to be as connected and nurturing and loving as you can.
I love that idea about the journal. I go on mad walks.
Mad walks. That's a good one.
I'll go walk my dog and I'll be like muttering to myself and getting so mad and saying like all the things I want to say. And I must look like a crazy woman. But
okay, so I haven't tried that journaling, but I'm going to tell you, I have the perfect journal, and it happened to have been a gift from Joanne, and it's called For Fox's Sake.
Perfect. Right?
Solid it, for Fox's Sake.
That was 3 years ago. You haven't used that journal.
She didn't know what to do with it. Right?
I still have it. It's on my bookshelf in my bedroom. I see it every day.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
And I think I need to start writing. But no, I love that idea, because you're right. There's so many things you want to say that you're like, I'm not going to say that. And because I know that's not going to be helpful in this situation. So yeah, I love the idea of just being able to just dump it.
Well,
get it all
and
out.
the other thing is, just also, we expect and require so much from our teens in the guise of respect, right? We want them to respect us. That's disrespectful. We say that so often to teenagers. And really, it's very confusing for them, because we usually say it with our own venom, because we're angry and you will respect me, when we're being the most disrespectful to them, and we don't even see our behavior. So the way that teenagers often download that is sort of like that, do as I say, not as I do. And that's where the rebellion happens. That's where they feel resentful.
Right.
I have to be calm and I have to speak in a way that you expect me to, but you don't have to do that for me. It's confusing for them, and it also creates resentment.
Right.
Definitely. So I hear journaling, talking in the mirror, great things for like self-care. You also dig into a little bit more about how adults really need to take the self-care. What are like some other things adults can do?
Right. So I think that what I just described is crisis management.
Okay.
So before you jump in the flames, you're going to put your turnout gear on, right? That's your turnout gear, right? But self-care is a practice. It's an everyday practice, and it's kind of a philosophical way of looking at your day. And it, as parents, and especially as mothers, we tend to not allow ourselves to take care of ourselves. We tend to want to serve everybody first, and then we eat the cold plate of food, right? While we're cleaning the kitchen. And so what is super important, especially when you have an extreme teenager who's going through turmoil, is that you get in the practice of like creating almost a ritual of self-care every single day. That could include, getting up before everybody else and, watching the sunrise and drinking your cup of tea, reading your paper, whatever those things are that get you grounded and centered. That could be making sure that you take time for yourself every evening away from your children, go take your walk with the dog, or, take a hot bath, but really have almost like nurture yourself in the way that you're going to need to. And this is really like, it's like training for a triathlon, only from an emotional standpoint. It's like, you can't just do a triathlon. You have to train and you have to learn all these skills. And while you're doing this self-care, it's so important to not negotiate with yourself. If part of your self-care is exercise, that's something that's really important for me. I'm not going to be the best parent that I can be if I don't do those things, if I don't exercise every day, if I don't take time for myself. In fact, it's also a really great way to model for your teenagers how they can instill self-care in their practice and their routine, and how they can set boundaries. Some parents feel so guilty. The no guilt mom, right? Some parents feel so guilty about taking that time for themselves because their kids, they need to be doing something with their children. But what I found is, if I say, especially when my kids were younger, if I said, you know what, I'm just going to go and I'm going to take some time for myself because I'm feeling really prickly and I don't want to say anything or do anything that might be harmful to you. And I go off by myself, and I come back a better version of me, and I'm more grounded and I'm more engaged with them, and I'm more invested in spending time with them. They are so much happier, and they start to learn that it's okay to take time for yourself. That's what we teach them.
I totally agree. Because like now that my daughter is getting into like the age where she's a super achiever and she sees me be a super achiever. But as much as I tell her to relax, she's like, Mom, you don't relax. I'm like, you're totally right.
While you're doing 7 things, you tell her to relax.
Yeah, I know. I don't. So that's definitely a good reminder.
I think that's interesting. I think that teens are very telling it like it is. It's almost like going back to toddlerhood, but with a better vocabulary and better reasoning. And again, you talk about that in your book, how you have to be careful because they will reason the bejeebies out of whatever you're saying, get what they want.
They will.
Right.
They'll point out every loophole.
Very good negotiators.
Yeah, they will point out every loophole you ever accidentally left sitting out there.
Yeah.
That's right.
Where do people find your book?
Well, we are launching April 6th. So it will be available on Amazon. And you can also go to my website, thebravoeffect.com, and find it there. Leading up, I don't know all the details because I have a team of wonderful people helping me figure out the marketing end of all this, but there's going to be giveaways, there's going to be discounts. I really am hoping that if you're interested in what you're hearing right now, that your audience is interested, that they go ahead and get the book on April 6th.
Great. We will make sure we have a link in the show notes for that.
It gets 5 stars from Bree and me. So definitely go out, get the book. Thank you so much for joining us again. And we'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks for having me. This was fun.
So I always love talking with Dr. Bravo because she gets it, and she gets how important connection is with kids.
Right. And that's one thing I think we hear from every expert we've talked to. That same message comes through no matter who we've spoken to about connection with your kids.
Connection, and then also trusting your instincts as a parent. Because I like how she mentioned that, some parental instincts, like, they're so off because we've been conditioned to seek out expert guidance and expert advice that we've stopped listening to what we feel is right and appropriate.
That's very, very true. Like, I do feel like we often think that we don't know what's best when a lot of times we actually are going in the right direction.
Yeah. Or we second guess ourselves as parents.
Yes.
If we think we're going to do something this way and they're like, oh no, like what would my mom say about that? Or what would like that mom at preschool who's like up in everyone's business say about that? Or like
the mom judgment, the mommy wars. It's hard.
It's hard. Yeah. It's really hard. But so trust in yourself. And we hope you enjoyed Dr. Bravo and go get her book.
The Bravo Effect. Yes. In stores now.
Yes. And authors love it if you leave reviews, especially 5-star reviews. So just putting that out there for Dr. Bravo. Go leave a 5-star review for her once you read it. She's amazing. So until next time, remember, the best mom's a happy mom. Take care of you. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks for stopping by. Are you looking for something to listen to with your whole family? Then check out 6 Minutes, produced and created by Gen Z Media. With over 200 twisty, cliffhanger-filled episodes, 6 Minutes tells the story of 11-year-old Holiday, who is pulled from the icy waters with no memory of who she is or where she came from.
3 years ago, Brinley Pasternak helped the Anders family uncover the truth about Holiday's past. Now she'll need them to help her find the truth about hers. In 6 Minutes Out of Time, the long-awaited sequel, Cyrus Anders is found unconscious near the mysterious Elixir Academy in Florida, and Brinley learns the school may have a shocking connection to her missing mother.
Dive in now and get the most downloaded family audio adventure in history. Follow 6 Minutes wherever you get your podcasts. You can listen early and ad-free with the GZM family subscription.